controlling it. Okay, so Maggie's controlling it. Wonderful.
Okay. Okay. My defense is on an examination of trust in Guam's elementary schools, perceptions of faculty members. I'd like to welcome my dissertation chairs, my dissertation members. My dissertation chair is Dr. Carol Freehand, who is online from Spokane, Washington. She's an independent training and, wait, I'm sorry, you know, it's confusing because I can hear the
Yeah, it's
echo.
not at the same, yeah, it's not happening at the same time.
Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of like move it a little bit.
That's what I did.
Okay. She's an independent training and coaching professional. She's also an adjunct professor with Argosy University. She has taught in the public school system in Hawaii. She was a school administrator for 15 years. Dr. Freehand earned her bachelor's in education from Michigan University. She earned 2 master's degrees, one in curriculum instruction from Laverne University and the other in special education from the University of Hawaii. Dr. Freehand graduated with a PhD in leadership studies from Gonzaga University in Spokane, Washington. Give a warm welcome to Dr. Freehand.
Welcome.
My other committee member is Dr. Christine Lesperance, who is online from Hawaii. She is a dedicated educator and instructional design specialist devoted to building the capacity in multiple fields. Her career in K-12 and subsequently as a chair and faculty in higher education has allowed her to work with educators and business people worldwide to facilitate leadership development and the promotion of healthy systemic change in organizations and institutions. Dr. Freehand earned her bachelor's in biology from California University, State University. She earned her master's in counseling from St. Mary's College in California. Dr. Freehand graduated with a PhD in leadership studies from Gonzaga University. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Lesperance. My other committee member is Dr. Geraldine James. She is from Guam. She graduated from George Washington High School. She received her BA in secondary education and mathematics from the University of Guam. She earned her master's in ed in education in secondary, in school supervision and leadership from the University of Portland. She also received her EDD in educational leadership from Argosy University, Hawaii. Currently, Dr. James is an assistant professor and the program chair for the Graduate Secondary Education Program in the University of Guam School of Education. And is also an adjunct professor for Argosy, Hawaii, University of Hawaii, the doctoral education programs in Guam, Hawaii, and American Samoa. Give a warm welcome to Dr. James. Last but not least, Dr. April G. Taylor. She is our program chair who is online from, I think, where are you at, Dr.? She's in Georgia right now. She is Argosy Hawaii EDD graduate and a former professor of practice for the Hawaii campus. Give a warm welcome to Dr. Taylor. I would also like to, yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, everybody's on. Sorry. sorry. I can start now? I think so. Okay. I'd like to take this time to acknowledge my audience, my family, okay, and Dr. James. Okay. Dissertation format. Today's defense will follow the dissertation format inclusive of Chapter 1, introducing the problem, Chapter 2, presenting the review of literature, Chapter 3, providing an overview of the methodology, Chapter 4, discussing the results of the study, Chapter 5, pulling together the study and with the discussion and recommendations. There will be a brief period for questions and answers, okay, from the audience and my committee. Chapter 1, the problem. When considering the cooperation, collaboration, and communication between teachers and the principals, the trust within the relationship makes an effective working atmosphere for all stakeholders involved. Hoy, Tisani Moran, 1999. Trust has become an essential component for any working relationship and has become a very important element in schools, organizations today. Mackwitz, 2011. Establishing mutual trust between teachers, principals, and clients provides a way for the stakeholders to work together and collaborate on projects and activities. Burke and Schneider, 2002. Wait, yeah. Sorry.
Maybe minimize that. If you pull it down, there's a little thing up there where you can minimize. No,
The purpose of this study, by building on previous research by Connolly in 2008, the purpose of this study is to examine faculty trust and the relationship with principals, colleagues, and the clients being the parents and the students. The study examined how teachers rated the dimensions of trust and if the level of teacher professionalism related to the level of trust. With multiple responsibilities that administrators have and the pressure on teachers to meet legal requirements, the development of professional relationship between the principals, teachers, and clients is crucial. Because trust is an essential element in any effective organization, examining the component with a principal-teacher, teacher, and teacher-client relationship and how it affects attitudes and the motivation within the organization is important. The first research question and hypotheses examine perceptions of teachers in relation to the trust and the differences in trust levels within the relationships between principals, colleagues, and clients, as, like I said, parents and students. The null hypothesis states that in GDOE, the level of faculty trust in the principal is not statistically different from the established US norm of 500. The alternative states that it is statistically different. The second null hypothesis states that in GDOE, the level of faculty trust in parents and students is not statistically different from the established US norm of 500. The alternative states that it is statistically different. The third null hypothesis states that in GDOE, the faculty of trust in colleagues is not statistically different from the established US norm of 500. The alternative states that it is statistically different. The second research question and hypothesis centered on teacher professionalism, that teachers are familiar to sharing their expertise, engage, and work openly in decision-making with the stakeholders of the school. practice cooperation and acknowledge the abilities of those involved while developing a trusting relationship with each stakeholder. And the fourth null hypothesis states that no relationship exists between the level of teacher, faculty trust in colleagues and the level of teacher professionalism. The alternative states that a relationship exists. The fifth null hypothesis states that no relationship exists between the level of teacher trust in principals and the level of teacher professionalism. The alternative states a relationship does exist. The sixth and last hypothesis states no relationship exists between the level of faculty trust in the principal and the level of trust in the colleagues. The alternative states that a relationship does exist. The study looked into the professional relationship between elementary teachers, principals, and clients. McKinsey, 2003, deposits that teachers are more responsive to principals whose first responsibility is to their teachers and who display the following four characteristics. 1, address issues with humor and encouragement. 2, value relationships over power. 3, respect and value their staff through effective communication. And 4, model caring, compassion, and risk-taking. Teacher behavior creates trust within faculty members, and principal behavior creates trust in the principal. Tasani Moran, 1998. The study focused on faculty members who work for the GDOE in the elementary level and examined faculty perceptions concerning trust in the work environment. The educational significance for conducting this research may benefit the stakeholders comprised of teachers, principals, and clients of the Guam Department of Education elementary schools. The research conducted a quantitative method study to examine trust through the perceptions of faculty members in the elementary school level. Researching the levels of trust and professionalism of the elementary school faculty members may assist the GDOE and may be useful to practicing principals and aspiring teachers in identifying areas of professional development. This research study also may provide groundwork on this topic and enable future researchers to pose more specific questions, such as the particular behavior styles of an effective on emphasizing trust relationships in the school, and what behavior styles promote trust relationships within the schools. Furthermore, the researcher anticipates results may provide relevant information to the Guam Department of Education determining educational trust building training programs and that will impact relationships between principals, teachers, and clients. Okay, the conceptual framework of this study is surrounded by 3 disciplines of 1, sociology, that will focus on the significance of trust in terms of the facets of trust, choice behavior, attitudes and values, and emotions. Psychology, that will focus on the background of trust within organizations, concentrating on the importance of trust in the schools. Education, focusing on trust in leadership, school leadership, and relationship between administrators and teachers. Throughout the past 5 decades, the significance of trust has been recognized by many researchers. Argus, 1962, Likert, 1967, McGregor, 1967, Mellinger, 1959, Reed, 1962. The trust in leaders and colleagues has been an important concept in applied psychology, sociology, and other related disciplines, Dirks and Ferrin. 2002, trust and risk are complementary terms in social relationships. Bernhoff and Bernfield, 2004. A person's social behavior plays a big role in trust. The misuse of trust is visible when people are especially sensitive to the cues from others who then are deemed not trustworthy. Bernhoff and Bernfield, 2004. Previous research done by Hoy and Tisani Moran identified the 5 facets of trust as part of the dynamics of successful and failure of interpersonal relationship, 1999. The 5 facets of trust are defined as benevolence, is a person's goodwill, and is viewed as his or her compassion and generosity towards another person's suffering or need, Peterson, 2008. Reliability is the extent to which a person can be counted on by others to come through with what is needed, Hoy and Tisani Moran, 1999. Competence is a person's average performance or job or role in a given job through experience, knowledge, and motive dispositions, Peterson, 2008. Honesty refers to the person's or group's characters, integrity, and authenticity. Tisani Moran and Hoy, 1999. Openness is how a person will exhibit flexible thinking and will not withhold information necessary to the progress of another person or group. The trust judgments are partly made on assumptions of people's shared values. Tisani Moran, 2004. As values are considered the general standards of principles such as loyalty, helpfulness, and fairness, attitudes are basics of a person's thoughts or feelings about people, groups, and organizations, Tisani Moran, 2004. Values and attitudes contribute to the relationships within the organizations as people form attitudes towards each other that are based on how one feels about the other's trustworthiness. Tisani Moran, 2001. Greenwood and Van Buren, 2010, reports that trust is the emotional bond between people, allowing them to move further than the rational prediction of taking a leap of faith that trust will be honored. Moods are cultivated through one's thoughts and practices and a way of being tuned into the world, Tisani Moran, 2004. To be a trustworthy person, a person first needs to be known as a person of goodwill. Tisani Moran, 2004. Teachers need to feel confident that their principal, colleagues, and clients will work cooperatively and collaboratively with one another to achieve main school goals. Tisani Moran, 2004. Organizational trust is consistent between individuals or groups and the organization as the entity, Greenwood and Van Buren, 2010. In organizations, the trust relationships create social networks, encouraging people to act in a trustworthy manner. Hardin, 2007, Tisani Moran, and Hoy, 2000. People must have shared goals, mutual trust, and have the willingness to give and take among each other. Del Angelo, 2009. Organizational trust is fostered when employees exhibit integrity, truthfulness, and clarity in the communications with each other. When trust is present, the effectiveness of the organization is improved. Kunishiro, 2008. An effective working educational community is built on trust and curiosity. Nice, 2010. Gimbel, 2003, suggests that the level of trust teachers have for administrators depends upon the behaviors of their administrators. Principals benefit when the trust and planning are carefully structured to include teachers in decision-making matters involving the organization, and when the teachers use their knowledge and expertise to lead to changes in the organization, Tasani Moran, 2001. Principals who promote the atmosphere of trust encourage openness among their staff members, Tasani Moran and Hoy, 2000. Trust and leadership go hand in hand because leadership begins and ends with trust. Leadership is the cement that binds all relationships together while providing the foundation from which leadership flourishes and changes. Gus Glazer, 1997, Harper Duke, 2005. Leaders must build a platform of trust to be effective. Harper Duke, 2005. The influence of leaders are controlled by the characteristics and qualities they create. Jones, 2007. Therefore, trust is imperative to leaders when their intentions are to create and maintain respectful relationships in the decision-making processes. Taylor and Digogi, 1996. The most essential skill for educational leaders is their interpersonal communication skill, which promotes and helps to build trusting relationships within their organization. Brewster and Wellsback, 2003. Educational leaders are the ones who guide their schools through the challenges posed by an increasing complex environment. Lay, Wood, and Rye, 2003. Trust characterized by an honest and supportive relationship contributes to the positive working environment. Moy, Hinken, and Igley, 2005. School leaders who tend to be more open, friendly, and considerate are with their teachers, treat teachers as colleagues, and set reasonable standards that are not only accepted but are awarded with trust by their teachers. Hoy, 2002. In today's society, school principals need to be a mixture of different parts of leadership roles, such as bureaucrats, educational leader, role model, surrogate parent, and moral agent in order to respond to all the school's stakeholders. Culbris, 2006. To quote Cruz, Lewis, and Berg, 1996, teachers must feel they are honored for their expertise within the school as well as within the district, parent community, and other groups. Respect, trust, and shared sense of loyalty build professional commitment and the cooperation required for collaboration and shared decision making. In this study, the research examined the perceptions of trust among Guam's elementary schools teachers with principals, their colleagues, and parents and teachers. The study also identified the trust levels of teachers according to Hoy and Tisan Moran's 1999 Bosses of Trust. The study also investigated the levels of teacher professionalism and its relation to the level of faculty trust in principals and in colleagues. The participants, elementary school teachers, are the primary source of data for this research. Research questions are formulated towards inquiring about relationships among the variables, and what the researcher seeks to know. Creswell, 2009. The hypotheses are the predictions a researcher makes about the respective relationships among those same variables. Creswell, 2009. There are two types of hypotheses that can be tested: the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. Creswell, 2009. The null hypothesis represents the traditional approach of making a prediction in the general population that there is no relationship or no significant difference existing between the two groups or the variables. The alternative hypothesis makes the prediction about the expected outcome based on prior literature and studies on the topic that suggest the potential outcome. Creswell, 2009. The philosophical framework in using the quantitative approach is based on the world view of a post-positivist. The Creswell, 2009. The post-positivist employs surveys and experience as strategies of inquiry using the methods such as closed-ended questions, predetermined approaches, and numeric data, Creswell, 2009. All strategies lead the researcher towards testing or verifying theories or explanations, identifying variables of study, relating variables in questions or hypotheses, using standards of validity and reliability, observing and measuring information numerically, using unbiased approaches, and employing strategic procedures. The research design. The qualitative method uses hard, reliable data and have a view of the social world as external to the researchers through surveys. Berman, 1988. Most quantitative research methods tend to emphasize on the common reality on what people really agree on. Jha, 2008. The content of the studies is extracted for analysis using a structured questionnaire so that comparable data can be collected from each participant, thereby allowing aggregation of findings and the identification of patterns in the data collected. Pope, Mason, Pompey, 2007. A set of structured closed questions was used to extract data from the participants of the study. Then it was treated as observations within a single quantitative data set. Population sample. For this study, 5 elementary schools accepted the invitation to participate, so those schools were given the teacher letter of introduction. The teacher participants represented certified faculty members who were in the school at the time of the distribution of the letters. Prior to the collection of the data, the researcher obtained approval from both the central office school administration personnel and the campus school administration to ask for voluntary faculty participants. No support staff or faculty member who is on authorized leave were asked to participate on the online survey. In sum, the sample of teachers was diverse demographically in terms of age, race, gender, experience, and the educational level. The criteria for participating in the surveys were that the volunteer participant must be 1, 18 years or older, 2, have worked in the school with the current principal for a minimum of 1 year, and 3, be a certified teacher. Instruments that we used were the surveys used to collect data for the study were the Omnibus Trust Scale, Omnibus T-Scale, developed by Hoy and Moran, 2003, and the Professional Index, P Index, by McHorn and Hoy, 2009. The Omnibus T-Scale measures the levels of trust in the schools and explores the connections of faculty trust in the principals, in colleagues, and in clients, the parents and students. The Professional Index measured the 4 key elements of teaching professionalism academic engagement, self-regulation of professional standards, effectiveness, and the contribution of the professional community for 2010. The variables of the study looked at the variables of faculty trust in principals, in colleagues, and in clients. The dependent variables for the study was the faculty trust and the rating of teacher professionalism. Data analysis. The researcher obtained 114 online completed surveys that was enough to have a sample size valid for the statistical analysis. Descriptive statistics for all the variables entered will be calculated to include the means and the standard deviations. These computations make it possible to find out the degree of variability exists between the variables. Geist, 2002. In order to test the hypotheses, the coefficients were computed for each aspect of faculty trust using the Pearson product moment correlation coefficients to find out whether the pattern merges among the set of variables. The correlation coefficient is the number that summarizes the direction and degree or closeness of linear relationship between the variables. These computations determine to what extent variability exists between the faculty trust and professionalism with the principals and the colleagues. The level of significance set for this study is P equals 0.05. This means that if the P value is less than 0.05, the null hypothesis will be rejected and the alternative hypothesis will be accepted. The limitations of this study was confined to the DOE elementary schools, which limits the generalizability of the findings. Furthermore, the random sample selection is limited to only elementary school teachers based on the following reasons. One, as an educator from Guam with primarily elementary school experience, some nuisances and contextual references may be overlooked by someone who is less familiar with the elementary school culture. Two, studying trust at several levels of school simultaneously may introduce unintended variables that are difficult, if not impossible, to account for, resulting in unclear data. Three, more statistically significant results may be generated through limiting the variables to only include the elementary school teachers who share similar responsibilities to their grade level peers. The limitations are established boundaries set forth by the researcher in this research study and include the following. One, a random set of elementary schools on Guam was not possible as Guam is not a large district, so the research study limited the sample to the teachers in the elementary schools who chose to volunteer to participate. Two, as numerous teachers are employed in the elementary school system, the research was limited to certified teachers who are 18 years of age and older and who have worked with the principal in the same school for over a year. The results. Data was collected from 114 participants, 18 male and 96 female. The chart reflects the faculty members who volunteered to participate in the survey, which is the 16% of males and 84% females. The 5 Guam Department of Education elementary schools who participated have a diverse faculty population, which includes the ethnic composition largely of Chamorro and Filipino teachers. For this research study, the data collected comprised of 61% of Chamorros and 32% of Filipinos. The other faculty members were 4% Caucasian, 2% Pacific Islander, and less than 1% were Asian, and less than 1% were other. The participants consisted of faculty members who worked with the current principal for the following number of years. 1 year were 4 people, that's 3% of participants. 2 to 3 years were 34 people, which comprised 30 participants. 4 to 5 years were 68 people, the 6% of the population, the participants. And 6 to 10 years, there were 8 people, which comprised of 7% of the participants. The first null hypothesis stated that in GDOE, the level of faculty trust in the principal is not statistically different from the established U.S. norm of 500. The alternative states that the level of faculty trust in the principal is statistically different. The descriptive analysis of the data provided information on the variable of the level of faculty trust in the principal and how it rates to the established U.S. norm of 500. As measured by the standardized scores for the omnibus T-scale, the standard score was compared against the normative data provided by the Ohio sample, which was the mean of 500 and the standard deviation of 100. The result of the DOE teachers' trust in principals on the omnibus T-scale was the standard score of 729 with a z-score of 2.29. The null hypothesis was rejected, indicating that the z-score was 2 standard deviations above the mean on faculty trust in principals from all the schools in the U.S. sample. In other words, the participants in the GDOE elementary schools have more trust in the principals than 97% of the schools in the U.S. sample. Okay. The second null hypothesis states that in GDOE, the level of faculty trust in parents and students is not statistically different from the established U.S. norm of 500. The alternative hypothesis states that in GOD, the level of faculty trust in parents and students is statistically different. Descriptive analysis of the data provided information on the variable of the level of faculty trust in parents and students. And how it rates against the U.S. norm of 500. As measured by the omnibus T-scale, the standard score was of the DOE teachers' trust and in parents and students on the omnibus T-scale was a standard score of 995. The z-score was 4.95. The null hypothesis was rejected, indicating that the z-score was about 4 standard deviations over the mean on faculty trust in parents of all the schools in the U.S. sample. The GDOE's elementary school teachers have more trust in parents and students than over 99% of the schools in the U.S. sample. The third null hypothesis states that in GDOE, the level of trust in colleagues is not statistically different from the U.S. established norm of 500. The alternative states that the level of faculty trust is statistically different. Descriptive analysis of the data provided information on the level of the variable of the level of faculty trust in colleagues and how it rates against the established U.S. norm of 500. On this, the standard scores on the omnibus T scale was 855, and that resulted with a Z-score of 3.55. The null hypothesis was rejected, indicating that the Z-score was about 3 standard deviations over the mean of faculty trust in colleagues of all the schools in the U.S. sample. It just means that GDOE elementary school teachers have more trust in their colleagues than 99% of the schools in the U.S. sample. The fourth null hypothesis states that no relationship exists between the level of faculty trust in colleagues and the level of teacher professionalism. The alternative states that a relationship does exist. The relationship was examined using the Pearson product moment correlation coefficient. It was found that there was a medium negative correlation between the two variables, which is your R equals negative 0.330 with the P equals 0.000. This just shows the higher levels of faculty trust in colleagues, which is the mean of 4.70 and the standard deviation of 1.27. And it links to the lower levels of teacher professionalism, which is the mean equals 3.68 and the standard deviation of 1.58. The result of P equals 0.000 indicates a statistically significant relationship between the level of faculty trust in colleagues and the level of teacher professionalism, as measured by the omnibus T scale and the P index. Since the P value is less than 0.05 alpha levels, the null hypothesis was rejected, indicating an inverse relationship at a moderate level of the faculty trust in colleagues connected with lower levels of the teacher professionalism in the schools. In other words, faculty trust was stronger in colleagues than it was in the level of teacher professionalism. The fifth null hypothesis states that no relationship exists between the level of faculty trust in principals and the level of teacher professionalism. The alternative hypothesis states that a relationship does exist. The relationship between the level of faculty trust in principal equals the mean of 4.01 and the standard deviation of 1.84, and the level of teacher professionalism of mean equals 3.68 and the standard deviation of 1.58 was investigated using the Pearce product moment correlation coefficient. There was a small positive correlation between the two variables, which is the R equals 0.242 and the P equals 0.000, with the increased levels of faculty trust in principals associated with increased levels of teacher professionalism. The result of P equals 000 indicates that a statistically significant relationship between the level of faculty trust in principals and the level of teacher professionalism as measured by the omnibus T scale and the P index. Since the P value is less than 0.05 alpha level, the null hypothesis was rejected, indicating that the level of faculty trust in principals is statistically significant with the level of the teacher professionalism in the schools, but with a small correlation. Hence, the result demonstrates a increasing level of faculty trust in principals linked to the increasing levels of teacher professionalism. The sixth null hypothesis states that no relationship exists between the faculty trust in principals and the level of faculty trust in colleagues. The alternative hypothesis states that a relationship does exist. The relationship between the level of faculty trust in principals, which is the mean of 4.01 and the standard deviation of 1.84, and the level of faculty trust in colleagues with a mean of 4.70 and a standard deviation of 1.27 was investigated using the Pierce product moment correlation coefficient. There was a small negative correlation between the two variables, which is the R equals negative 0.155 with a P equals 0.000, with the levels of faculty trust in principals inversely associated with the levels of faculty trust in colleagues. The result of P.000 indicates a statistically significant relationship between the level of faculty trust in principals and the level of faculty trust in colleagues, as measured by the omnibus T-scale. Because the p-value is less than 0.05 alpha levels, the null hypothesis is rejected, indicating a higher level of faculty trust in colleagues is weakly correlated to the lower levels of trust in principals. Thus, the findings suggest that although there is a small inverse correlation between the level of teacher trust in the principals, the level of trust in colleagues, as trust in administration increases, trust in the colleagues decreases. Trustworthy behavior has positive effects on the communication with the organization or group. Bernhoff and Bornfield, 2004. The Guam standard scores of the survey items for each facet of trust were calculated. Each facet indicated by the teacher's responses to the survey scored a high trust in principals and colleagues and parents and students. The higher the level of trust in schools, the more willing the people are to demonstrate trust in others around them. Bernhoff and Bernfield, 2004. Hoy and Moran, 2003, termed benevolence as the confidence that one's well-being will be protected by the trusted party. The results from the data analysis in this study supports that when teachers feel their well-being will be protected by the goodwill of others, trusting relationships are formed. Teachers' responses were scored high for the reliability and the competence for all stakeholders. It is important that teachers are able to rely on their administration colleagues and their clients. The extent of how one person can be counted on by another person is crucial in trusting relationships. Hoy and Moran, 1999. Where there is trust, teachers depend on one another to accomplish their goals as well as the goals of the schools. Kramer, 2006. The data analysis show that teachers feel that they can rely on principals, colleagues, and parents and students when working cooperatively, collaboratively in the schools. Jones, 2007, suggests that when teachers feel their colleagues are competent and reliable, they have knowledge and skills, their trusting relationships will increase. The honesty and openness of principals, colleagues, and clients scored high with the results from the data analysis. Honesty and openness are significant as they refer to the character, integrity, authenticity, and how much a person will accept experiences, flexibility, and not withhold information for the progress of all those involved. Peterson, 2008. The alternative hypothesis indicated that the peers product moment correlation found a significant relationship between the level of trust in colleagues and the level of teacher professionalism. The relationship shows an inverse relationship at a moderate level, that is, higher levels of trust in colleagues that correlate with lower levels of teacher professionalism. The alternative hypothesis 3 shows a significant relationship between the levels of faculty trust in the principals and the level of teacher professionalism. Hence, although there is a small correlation, the alternative hypothesis demonstrates an increasing level of faculty trust in principals, linking with increasing levels of teacher professionalism. With the alternative hypothesis 6, the correlation found a small negative correlation between the level of faculty trust in principals and the level of faculty trust in colleagues, with an R score of negative 0.155. The findings suggest that although there is a small inverse correlation between the level of teacher trust in their principals and the level of teacher trust in their colleagues, it goes to show that trust in the administration increases as the trust in colleagues decreases. Okay. Recommendation for practice. To maintain the Department of Education's vision for preparing all students for life, promote excellence, and provide support, faculty trust in principals and colleagues and clients is the key element for an effective working school organization, Jones, 2007. The results of this study suggest that the school faculty members considered that the relationship of trust for principals, colleagues, and clients influences the school environment by their interactions, the processes in schools, such as their openness, communication, and collaboration. It is also recommended that through collaboration, cooperation, and creating a climate of culture and care, it would enhance the development of trusting relationships with all the stakeholders in the organization. Further analysis of the relationship among the level of faculty trust in principals and colleagues versus the level of teacher professionalism found that though there is a significant relationship, the relationship still requires more development through workshops and training to build and form stronger trusting bonds. The result of this study have indicated that further investigation into ways to increase trust within the DOE elementary schools. So trust must be continually nurtured and renewed to survive and grow in an organization. Spallman, 1993. Recommendations for future study. Several recommendations for the further study are suggested by the outcomes of this study and will be briefly discussed. One, the first recommendation is to have a replication of this study to include all 27 GDOE schools, elementary schools. That would give the district a larger sample size and a more closer to an accurate analysis. Another recommendation is to conduct research to investigate a larger population that would include the middle schools and high schools. Another additional research could be to conduct to gain knowledge of trust through the administration's point of view. Research could be embarked on using a mixed method approach of quantitative and qualitative methods by means of participant interviews and case studies. Further research could be conducted to examine greater understanding of building and sustaining trusting relationships. So I'll end my presentation with a quote from Stephen R. Covey. Trust is the highest form of human motivation. It brings out the best in people, but it takes time and patience. Okay. I think that's it. Any questions?
Does she have us back on?
I think so. Okay. Anybody have questions? No? Okay, nobody's asking, actually I had 7 schools, but I only got permission for 5. So I sent them out to 5. Well, I invited everybody, but only 7 agreed. Oh, I'm sorry. The question was, only 5 of the schools in DOE agreed to participate. Did they participate?
Right, and the reason, I'm just gonna jump in here, is because you mentioned there are 27 elementary schools, because I had the same question as where I think Dr.
Yes.
Esperanza is going, so then you said 5 out of 27.
Well, actually, 7 agreed, but I only got permission from Hawaii for 5. So I did only the 5. Okay? Yes. Yeah, I didn't add that in, but yes, it was a limitation that I had come to, where not all of the principals agreed to participate. I think the schools that agreed, because our system allows the principal to work with the school for 3 to 5 years, they had already built that trusting relationship. So because I had the limit of 5 schools, I'm thinking that they already had built that relationship. Okay. Sorry. She asked, what are the factors of that show the high level of, what was it, Dr. Chris? Trusting in Guam
Versus the
the
national.
versus that national. And I believe, the culture on Guam is close-knitted, so and it's more, as you get to know, they tend to build that relationship, so it's more of a culture where they build that culture because of so it's more of having to, with our schools, it's more close-knitted. So they probably show a larger amount of trust than there is in the U.S. norm. Yeah.
Hi, I am the same line of thought as Chris, so because I was gonna ask about, the 5 elementary schools, but you clarified that Argosy IRB limited you to 5. Okay, so even though, so you couldn't invite, I'm confused, you invited all 27, but
No.
then Argosy,
I invited all 27,
right,
only 7 responded,
okay.
okay? And I sent that in, but then when I got back my acceptance letter from Hawaii, it was only for 5.
Interesting, okay. So maybe explain that somewhere in here, because
Okay.
the numbers jump out at me, and that's, struck me
Okay.
right away.
Okay,
Because then it will explain, because you made a statement on your data analysis that the researcher obtained 122 online completed surveys to have a large enough sample size for valid statistical analysis. So maybe explain, the limitations that were
Okay.
put there. Okay. I looked at your results and I thought it was really fascinating. And just to explain to the audience here, I know you get lost in all the statistical numbers. When she's comparing 2 things, when she says there's a negative correlation, what that means as one is higher, the other is lower. So I thought what was interesting was the trust in principal and trust in teachers, in that as their trust in principals increased, their trust in colleagues decreased. So I just would like you to step away from the numbers and just explain that. What do you think? What do you attribute that to? I thought that was fascinating.
yeah, I thought it was fascinating too, because I think what it is that because of that close-knitted culture, right? As soon as this is my thoughts, is as soon as you build a relationship with your teacher, right? I mean, with the principal, right? As soon as you build that relationship, some teachers tend to shy away from it. So they kind of hold themselves aside from, little cliques. So I'm thinking, because Guam's culture has that clique, they have that clique. So as soon as, you see, if you're close to the principal, you kind of shy away from, just so you won't get involved with the cliques.
Okay. Those were my only questions.
Yes. Uh-huh. Okay. My definition for teacher professionalism is the way they hold themselves up to follow it's not like a set of rules that teachers have, but written rules, but it's how they present themselves towards the principal, towards colleagues, and towards their parents. And they always have to have a higher a higher motivation or a higher set of rules to go by. Yes, it measures their attitudes, their okay,
That was your P
yeah,
index.
the
Yeah,
P,
question.
the P index. So that did measure their engagement, their academic engagement, their self-regulation of professional standards, their effectiveness and contribution to the professional community. Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be, yeah, I think that would be like added to probably like further studies on how to build that teacher professionalism within the schools. Okay. Dr. Yes. She asked what challenged me the most about my statistical analysis. When I first started and I got all my information, I was so confused. I had all these numbers and I didn't understand them. I had to go to Carmen. She had to explain what certain numbers were and how they set up and how they fit together. And so that was my actual challenge, to understand how the numbers work together. I think I would, knowing what I do now, what would I have done differently? I think I would have tried to make more time so that I can go to try to convince more principals to participate, because I had like a short frame to work with. I had to like rush, and when my 7 schools said yes, I was like, okay, this I think will be enough. But if I should have made more time to do more schools, because it would have been more interesting to do the different schools from South, North, and Central. And right now, all I had was North and Central. So it would have been nice to know what South had said or how they had felt. What piece of advice would I give to somebody who's starting out on the dissertation process? My advice is, use your time wisely. Don't procrastinate. Do not procrastinate. Just work on it monthly and consistently. Oh my God.
Good question.
What did I learn about myself in this journey? It took a lot of hard work and concentration, and then But I learned about myself that when I put my mind to it, got it done, because I went through so much downfalls in this whole journey. I lost my mom, I lost my dad, and so with all that all that, I managed to pick myself up and finish, get it done. Sorry. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
We want to clap for you again.
Thank you. We can go outside and
Oh, yes.
wait for a little
So,
bit.
and then
They're gonna deliberate and then.